situation where so many people are suffering from ADHD and so many people are suffering from burnout and so many people are suffering from this, that, and the other, and you turn around and you're like, maybe it's because we decided to just give you 15 hours worth of content to rot your brain in front of at a time.
Yeah. I mean,
instead of breaking it up.
I think the big thing is now, instead of having one service that has a bunch of providers on it, you have a bunch of services that have a bunch of providers on it, and you have to like have a little bit of everything. Because like if you like TV shows or movies or, you know, whatever, you basically have to be subscribed to everything to be able to watch like good stuff, because you have Stranger Things that's over on Netflix. You have shows like Yellowstone and Landman over on like Paramount Plus. You have like Amazon, which has little subdivided things in it. Like we just finished this series From on Prime. It's like an MGM Plus subscription. Dude, the show was phenomenal. Like, probably one of the best series I've ever watched, period.
Okay.
And, you know, then you've got some stuff over on Hulu, and then you've got like Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus, and like you have all this stuff that's spread out through all of this. And, you know, you can, if you're smart, you kind of pick and choose, and you know, if you have the discipline and stuff to just stick to one thing, you can do one and be like, okay, I finished that series. I'm going to cancel this subscription. I'm going to pick up this subscription, and I'm going to watch this. Most people don't have that. Most people are just subscribe and then forget about it.
Yeah. I guess the takeaway that I'm getting is that in 1995, before your balls dropped, if you wanted to watch something specifically, you had to go to Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, or you had to go buy it on a video cassette.
Mm-hmm. Or a DVD. Or
not in 95.
Well, not in 95, but
yeah, you had to go buy it. And today, we don't have to buy it. We have to pay for the streaming service, which is subscription-based.
Some you can't, like, some that are not, like, strict to a subscription base, you can buy them.
Prime, you can, Xfinity, you can rent stuff. Prime, you can buy them, rent them. I think Xfinity allows you to buy them.
But if it's like a Netflix original, like the only way to watch that is on Netflix, unless Netflix decides to, you know, release physical.
My point is that the streaming services are carte blanche. What do you want to watch?
Yeah.
You pick it. We're not going to set, like, do you remember this fucking info button on the cable?
That is one thing that, like, I think does hinder the experience. It's like you sit there scrolling to find something to watch. You find something that you want to watch, but then that little part of your brain is just like, I bet I could find something better.
Well, that's fear of missing out, and that's.
But you like,
there's therapy for that.
There's been times where we're like, oh, let's watch a movie. Like, let's find a movie to watch, and we scroll through the movies for like 30, 45 minutes, and we're just like, there was like 10 movies that we could have just clicked and watched, but instead we were like, let's find another one. Let's find another one.
Right.
Let's find another one.
And so
instead of just committing to the first one that we found and just giving it a shot. Like when we used to go to Blockbuster or whatever and we wanted to rent a game, it's like, this is the game I want to rent. I've committed. And then when you get home, you don't have an option of picking another game. You have to play that one.
Right. And that's my point with cable and back in the day was if you scroll that info, that schedule, what do you do if you don't find anything that's worth watching?
You've already missed the thing that you were originally going to watch.
So you do what?
Find something else
to do.
I mean, maybe, but you always found something else to watch on TV. Even if you were halfway through it, it's just like, well.
I mean, sometimes, but
that was a big thing for us in our house. Is like, if we found something, like even when we had like live TV services that we would watch stuff before all the streaming services were available. Still, it was, like we're halfway through this movie, like, let's just watch it anyway. Just put it on, whatever.
No, I get that, and like that happened in my house too. Granted, most of the time it was like, okay, it was either the news or whatever I wanted to watch, but because the TV lived on.
Well, yeah.
But the point was, like, you could have the TV on, and I remember times when it was like, okay, yeah, the TV's on, but I'm not watching it.
I mean, that's a big thing now, too.
Well, and that's...
I think it's much worse now.
I agree, but I also think that it's significantly worse because people have that, oh, I can watch this, I'll just have this on, and then they inevitably keep getting drawn back into it, because it's engaging to them, because they like it, because it's not simply just some dumbass fucking news anchor going off about how the sheets down the street got robbed.
Yeah. It's
actually like, oh, I'm on season 6 of my favorite fucking show.
That is my problem is sometimes, like, at night when, kids are in bed, wife is in bed, I'm in the living room and I'm like, I don't want to go down to the game room. I don't have anything that I need to do, like, whatever. I'll sit on my phone and I'll play Magic or whatever, and I'll watch something on YouTube or whatnot, or like a TV show for background noise, like one of those shows you don't have to really pay attention to. And it's nice, but then there's times where, like, I'll look at my ROG Ally and I'm like, I could pick something up and start playing it on Steam. And there's part of my brain that's like, all right, like, I'll pick something up on Steam to play. Like, let me put something on TV. And I'm just like, wait, that's not how this works.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that we've gotten to a point in society where we don't really, I mean, there are things we want, of course. There are always things that you want, but we don't really want for anything. I mean, it's all right at our fingertips for the most part. Unless you're disadvantaged.
Since we're on this topic, this fits right into it. My brother-in-law texted me the other week, and he watched a reel that described our world perfectly. We go through our day-to-day lives, and we constantly have, like, the dopamine rush of looking at our phone whenever we want. And we can text people, we can scroll social media, we can look through reels, we can we can look on the internet, whatever we want, we have it right here.
Yeah.
And we're constantly being, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Why can I never think of the word?
Engaged?
Yeah, no.
Drawn in?
We're constantly
pulled in, looking for engagement? Like,
I guess engagement's kind of it. It's not.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know how to be fucking bored. Like, what?
It kind of. So we're constantly having that engagement. Let's just call it engagement. We're constantly having that. So when if in this scenario, I'm a 21-year-old that has his own apartment, okay? I work normal hours. So I go into work at 7. I leave at, like, 5.
God damn. That's a 10-hour day.
It's probably more normal than not nowadays.
I mean...
So... that's my life. That's my everyday. So I go to work at 7. I come home at 5. I, make something for dinner, and then it's me time. If I'm a guy that likes video games, which I am, when it's time for me to sit down and now play a game, I'm not as drawn in as I should be. I'm not as willing to sit down and deal with nonsense the way that I used to be when I didn't have this thing to constantly give me stimulation. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, yeah, you're always seeking more.
So I have so much stimulation throughout my day-to-day life that when I sit down for what should be the stimulation time, it's if it doesn't hit me immediately, I'm off to the next thing.
Right.
Whereas, if I was in the early 2000s, let's say 2002, and I was a 20-something-year-old person, I had my own apartment, I worked the same hours, I would come home and I'd be like, all right, game time. And I would sit down and I would play a game, and I am locked in.
I brought home Uncharted at like 7 o'clock at night after working at Walmart. I did not go to sleep. I literally went back to work the next morning having beat the game. Like, that was what that was, because it was that exciting, that engaging. It was just like, you know what? And I got lost in it.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of things we get lost in today, but there's also a lot of things that we should get lost in that we don't get lost in because we are so damn, and I don't want to call it fortunate, but
you're less likely to get drawn in if if there's a smidge of like slowdown, like building, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not even going to give it a shot.
Take it back 20 years. Actually, that's funny. Next year will be my 20th reunion. My 20-year reunion.
I'm close.
Yeah, I know. You're not far behind. That's wild to think because we didn't have smartphones when I graduated.
Smartphones had
2 years later
just come out when I graduated. Yeah. Because in my... should have been... I should have been out of school, but I failed, so I had to be in school. So I was supposed to be the last class to graduate out of the old high school, but instead I was the first class to graduate out of the new high school. And I remember being in the new high school, and the one kid had the iPhone 3G.
Well, stop and think back to that year. What did you do on an actual computer?
Played old school RuneScape.
I kind of figured that. I mean, I knew that was coming, but like, we had PowerPoint.
Clip that one for a short. That's in there.
PowerPoint was still clunky as shit. Word was still kind of... Windows XP was the operating system. We were getting ready to go Windows 7. Google was still like a relatively new thing. Alta Vista was on its way out. Yahoo was the old thing.
Oh man, Yahoo.
Bing was like, Microsoft.
Whoever used Bing? What's the other one? Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves was a great one. I don't know if that's around anymore. The new one is DuckDuckGo.
I've never heard of it.
It's a great one. I highly recommend it over pretty much any of the other ones.
I'm Google all the way.
Well, that's why I'm saying DuckDuckGo. But these were the things that we were doing on a computer for school, for our work. Email, texting was with T9.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, right when I was graduating, we had keyboards on the phone. Like the Blackberries were the hot
Blackberries
thing.
had them, yeah, but...
Dude, my favorite phone that I ever owned was a BlackBerry Bold.
BlackBerry Curve.
BlackBerry Bold was... Oh, my God.
But my point...
I traded an iPhone for a BlackBerry Bold, and I never looked back.
I knew you were mentally deficient. Sorry, that was mean,
It was
but
so.
I'm
Such
just
a nice
kidding.
phone. I love
No,
that
the Bold
phone.
was great. I did like the Bold. I
That was
like
like
the Curve better.
That was like high business class.
I like the trackball on the Curve.
I don't even know what what the curve was.
It's like the little compact red one. Gray one.
Oh, the Bold was like the. It was like you were in the office and I think it even had a little stylus thing that popped out of it.
That was the one before the Curve, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Curve was basically the same way. It just didn't have a stylus. It didn't have a touchscreen.
God, that phone was so nice.
My point is that we can do more on our phones today than we could do on computers in 2006.
Yeah.
Today we can book our hair appointments from our phones. Today we can order pizza from our phones, like without calling people.
You can like the things that you can do on this right now.
Like you can summon a fucking taxi equivalent from your phone.
You can play Mega Man on here. You can play
Old school RuneScape.
You can play old school RuneScape. You can play Magic the Gathering. You can play. You can emulate. Hell, you can do a ton. You can play Xbox on this.
Well, and so that's my point. Is that we call them smartphones. This is so much more because it's a camera. You used to have to carry a separate camera.
A very nice camera.
Yep, it's a camcorder. Most people didn't even have those. Video calls, never even thought of.
Here's a wild thing that we never had to worry about back then, like unless you were seeing like somebody that had like money. I was on the dealership lot. I think it was today. And I was doing a car. I had my headphones in. I was listening to an audiobook, and I have the AirPods so I can hear things around me. And this guy was walking towards me, and he said something. And I responded. I was like, "Oh, sorry, what did you say?" And I paused my book, and he was like, he had his phone in his hand, and he was like, "Oh," and he like just waved me off, and I was like, "Oh, he was talking to someone on his phone." But I've seen so many people walking in somewhere and they have their phone like this and they're FaceTiming somebody and they're like showing somebody like, you know, what they're looking at. And in public, that is one thing that drives me absolutely insane.
Well,
I cannot stand it.
That's the other thing that we're getting at here is that like people are getting more and more less worried about their neighbor, more worried about themselves. If I want to be on speaker, I'll be on speaker.